Hi everybody, my name is Scott Shapiro. I'm part of the Office 365 product marketing team. I'm so excited to talk with all of you today about the great things the Office 365 ProPlus platform can do for you and your business to help you really reinvent productivity in the modern era. If you want to follow up with any types of questions and just get the latest and greatest news across Microsoft and Office, feel free to follow me on Twitter at ShapScott. So with that, let's dive in today and talk all about the great things that Office 365 ProPlus can help you and your business to do. The first thing I want to do is take a moment to really think about what's technology's role in the workplace. There's a lot of important information out there to think about how technology can empower you and your business, but also the concerns that employees sometimes have around tech. So let's take a second to look at that left-hand side of the chart here and walk through some statistics that are a bit nerve-wracking in my opinion. So first off, about 75% of workers in the US have actually said they feel like their employers don't give them access to the latest technology to help them do their job efficiently. That's wild. That's so many people out there feeling like they just don't have access, which leads them to having to go find their own types of solutions that might be outside of your control and potentially harming your infrastructure. After that, if you think about it, we found in the data that about 2 out of 5 employees have actually stated they would potentially quit their jobs over poor workplace technology, which is wild. You can look to your left, to your right, and think about that in the workforce and see a couple of those folks are pretty likely to consider quitting because they don't have access to technology. They start to see the IT environment as gatekeepers instead of people that are empowering them. But what happens if you have the chance to empower your employees with the right technology? We've seen through our research about 21% of folks say that they have greater productivity amongst their teams if their employees are highly engaged. And that's 21% greater profitability for highly engaged business units. So just think about that for a moment. 75% of folks in tech roles feel like they don't necessarily have the right features and abilities accessible to them to do the work they want, and they potentially quit over it. But if they get the right technology, you can go so far as to have a 21% impact to your bottom line to really help your company be productive. So those are some of the scary trends happening around technology. If you have bad tech in the workplace, let's take a moment to take a look at what I think is some good technology, and I hope you'd all agree. So the Microsoft 365 platform, you've probably been hearing a lot more about that from us these days, and it comprises 3 key things. That's Office 365, Windows 10, and then our enterprise, mobility, and security offerings. Those 3 things working together in concert really help to bring to life the great Microsoft 365 promise. But I know from talking with lots of folks around the world, they're excited about Microsoft 365, but they're not always sure if they understand exactly what we're offering. So let me take a moment to try to clarify that for you. So in the old world, before we had Microsoft 365, there was sort of this feeling we were hearing from businesses around the world of all sizes. They felt like on a Monday, someone would come into their office and convince them through good conversation that we're on the same page and say, I think I need to get Office. I like what it can offer me. And that's great news. We love hearing that. And then on a Wednesday, that same company might talk to another member of the Microsoft ecosystem and say, you're going to have to go for Windows 10 to really make the best out of Office 365. And when we would make sure we understand the customer needs, they'd say, I agree, Windows is a great idea. And then on Friday, they might talk to another member of Microsoft and learn about enterprise mobility and security and say to themselves, great idea, I want to get that. This is the 3 different things I need for my company. And as exciting as it is that your business might choose to use all 3 of those motions, we've learned through talking with you, it's confusing. It's tough, that feeling of why do I talk to a different person to make my choices? I'm one business trying to be successful for my customer, and you're all Microsoft. Shouldn't we be able to get all of those products at the same time through the same motion and then make it easier to deploy them and utilize them to their fullest effect? And without a doubt, we agree with you. And Microsoft 365, it's kind of like saying, we're ready to talk with you as an entire business and us as an entire platform offering on one day. Just on that Monday we were referencing a moment ago, and you can learn all about the great things that we have to offer and choose it for your business. And if you're going to use it and then deploy it, we're making it easier than ever to really integrate all those great platforms together. Today, though, I want to focus primarily on Office 365 and what it can really deliver for your business as part of the Microsoft 365 platform. So what is Office 365 ProPlus. It's pretty great. I'm a big fan of it personally, of course, as you might imagine. On the top side, you start to really think about, well, it's this offering of all the different apps you know and love, whether it's your Outlooks, your Word, your PowerPoint, your Excel. You have the always up-to-date versions of those, never be left behind, and you're in control of when those updates happen to make sure that you're getting the best of what you need for your end users and your company's IT needs and security needs. The other great half of what comes with ProPlus is all around this services model and extra benefits, and that's on that bottom half of the slides here. It's awesome things like up to 5 installs across PC and Mac, tablet, phone, so that as you have like one license going out, you can actually install across all the different devices that person might have. In addition, it's got a great terabyte of cloud storage available per user, so you can really save all the data you need and work together in a more collaborative way. And then another one of my favorite benefits is Fast Track Assistance as part of ProPlus, so that we can help you to really understand how to actually deploy in the ways you need and make sure for your unique environment, your organization's being taken care of and you're not going to be slowed down and you can just focus on the great things you want to accomplish and not worry as much about how to deploy. So it's the apps you know and love that are always up to date, and then it's these great services that come to life with things like the cloud storage, Fast Track Assistance, and the multiple installs. Now, I said a moment ago that Office 365 ProPlus, it's really about delivering on that promise of Microsoft 365. And we think about 4 key categories. I'm going to go through at a high level here, and then we're going to dive into each of these with a little more information before we go into some demos to bring to life some of the exciting features of what you and your business will be able to take advantage of if you're using Office 365 ProPlus. So the 4 key categories we think a lot about of the scenarios you can unlock is first starts off with this idea of unlocking creativity, being built for teamwork, integration for simplicity, including things like deployment, and finally intelligent security to make sure that your information is always protected and your customers are always going to be safe and secure inside of your own network. So let's dive in and see what each of those are really about. All right, so the first area I want to walk you all through today is this idea of unlocking your creativity and how it can really help you to craft engaging content that tells your story. But before we dive into that, I want to take a step back. It's really easy to hear phrases like, we can help you unlock your creativity, and say to yourself, you know, I'm not an artist, I don't do painting, I don't even do graphic design. Best case scenario, maybe I'm taking some pictures with my phone and uploading it to Instagram. And that's how people tend to think of creativity. But here at Microsoft, as we talk with more and more amazing people all around the world using our products, we're realizing that creativity is so much more than that. Whether you're writing an essay or a proposal in Word, or you're going to be analyzing all different data and type inside of Excel, that's a new way to be creative. Creativity is about telling your story to be successful in whatever you want to accomplish. And now let's see some ways that Microsoft with Office 365 ProPlus is going to help you bring that to life. The first area is all around helping you to make amazing content with things like Designer inside of PowerPoint to really punch up your slides into a beautiful way, or Editor inside of Word to help you create a nice polish and fit and finish like a professional writing feel as you go through those documents. We can also help you to get your work done smarter and faster than ever before. With awesome things like Smart Lookup and Researcher, you can get contextual recommendations right inside of your apps without ever leaving and going off into the web. Or with Focused Inbox inside of Outlook, we can actually help you to sort based on your own habits with machine learning to say, these are mails that looks like you read often, and these are mails that you tend to ignore. So why don't we help you to focus on just the ones you really care about? And then we can help you to visualize data in all new ways, whether it's around helping you to create new charts inside of Excel, or to use a Power BI integration to create awesome dashboards so really easy to manipulate data. And then finally, we know that devices are evolving in all new ways, and you're evolving alongside them to want to work in all different styles. So we make sure that you can work naturally with things like ink and touch through optimized apps for touch, as well as having some awesome digital ink capabilities that we'll walk through later today. So in addition to creativity, we focus a ton on what it's like to be built for teamwork. How can you really work together seamlessly to build something great? And you know, there's really 2 different giant buckets that we think about when it comes to working together. There's kind of that world where you're working together in the same room, and you're actually all around that table, maybe co-authoring and partnering up. Or you're working all the way across the world, and you're sending those documents back and forth. And sometimes it's happening at the exact same time, like we were saying a moment ago, at that same table, or it's on your own time. It's a bit of an asynchronous feel to how you approach it. So in that concept of working together, whether you're in the same room or miles apart, we like to focus a ton on our abilities to handle co-authoring, including real-time co-authoring or real-time presence across the entire Office suite, whether you're in the desktop apps for Windows or for Mac, or you're in Office Online together. You're still able to co-author, see what your teammates are working on, and make sure that you're part of a greater organization moving forwards with your effort to be successful. We also have some great things like integration with our Skype for Business and additional chat capabilities right inside of the apps to help you go from writing out that comment to suddenly actually talking in real time if you need to. And then in addition to that, so there's some really cool capabilities out there these days for how you can work together, maybe if it's on a different scale of time, like we were saying a moment ago. Some really cool things around app mentions are some of my favorites. Just social media style, you can tag different people and send them different information, whether it's in an Outlook email or maybe a comment in one of the Office apps. And so they know, hey, I can use your help on this project, what I'm working on right now. And what's really great, we understand that even as you're working together as a team, there's plenty of times you're going to want to step back and say, I actually like that old version we had from last week a bit better than today. With version history, you can easily just go back in your files and find that earlier one. So that if you don't want to accept all the changes that were made in the most up-to-date version, you just grab that one, easy reference, and either fully restore it or just copy-paste in the style of writing you had earlier, really keeping you in control for you and your business. And we know that these days, people are saying they're on as much as 5 times as many teams as previously before over the years. So this idea of teamwork is super important to make sure it's easy to work together no matter where you are and how you and your team likes to function across different devices in different settings. So those first 2 buckets we were talking about, that's really all about the end user value. Once they have the capabilities for them right there on their laptop, phone, tablet, etc., it's what can they do. But let's take some time now to talk more about the IT side of the house and the real benefits to you as the IT professional potentially, or to your organization as you think through how to keep them secure and give them access to everything. So with that in mind, we focus a lot on this notion of integration for simplicity. We understand it's been hard over the years. Deploying all the different capabilities that you need for your business, it's not the easiest thing in the world. And it's our commitment to you to keep on getting better every day. And we've been updating the capabilities through some great feedback we get with customers, and we do that together in this world moving forwards always. We really want to streamline that usage and deployment for your team based on what we're learning from you in conversations all the time. So what's one of the first great benefits of being integrated for simplicity? It's all about that idea of accessing your work from anywhere. Like we said before, you can actually have 5 activations right there per device or per license. In addition, it's really great because you have these online capabilities. If you save your document to the cloud with things like OneDrive for Business or SharePoint, you can really get to your doc no matter where you are, no matter what device you're on. The next really important step is all around deployment, managing, and updating with ease. We were saying before with Microsoft 365, we want to bring together the big umbrella opportunities of what our platform can offer you. And part of that commitment is working to make sure Windows and Office are updating in aligned ways to make it simpler for you to plan ahead for your deployment packages and how to handle it. In addition to that, we've got some great opportunities now around Intune and Configuration Manager to help you really manage the devices after they've been deployed and handle whatever you need to do to stay up to date for your business needs. A really great benefit as well in this bucket is all about those fast track options, thinking through how can we help you through tons of resources, checklists, and hands-on experience where needed to make sure that you're going to be set up for success as you go to deploy. And then finally, with that idea of being set up for success, we want to make sure that we can have all your line of business apps and macros functioning optimally. We really want to make sure that we're ready for Windows and we have our readiness toolkits partnered together so that your business doesn't have to miss a beat as you go to take advantage of those great capabilities for both the end users and the IT professionals. And now the last big scenario and category that you can unlock through using Office 365 ProPlus, it's all around intelligent security. So let's take a step back for a second and think about security. I'm confident all of the folks out there that are interested in ProPlus and interested in security, I bet you do your best every day to educate the rest of your business, the rest of your colleagues, the employees in the organization, to make sure that they understand, hey, what does a phishing scam kind of look like? What are situations where they might run into trouble and potentially be putting themselves and your business at risk? Well, no matter how well we try to train them There's always going to be new things coming up every day that we might not even know about yet as the IT professional audience. And no matter how well we kind of do that knowledge transfer, people are going to make mistakes and people might not understand what's going on necessarily. And it's our idea at Microsoft to see with intelligent security, we want to protect you and them from making those types of errors to keep you secure and away safe from those cyber threats. So the first thing we think a lot about is this notion of detecting issues before they happen. What we really want to do with things like ATP safe links or the ATP URL detonation system, we're really trying to scan our documents, scan our links 2 different times. When they first come into your organization, Microsoft will take a look, will make sure safely that nothing is malicious or nothing is going to be looking to phish you and your organization for your data as you dive in. But those scams are getting more and more sophisticated these days, and that one-time scan is no longer enough. Sometimes the link gets all the way through, and at that point, it seems safe, but after it breaks through your walls, suddenly it'll actually transform its own offering, and at that moment is when it becomes a phishing scam. But to avoid those things, we actually then, at the time of your user clicking or interacting with that content, we'll check it again. And we'll look through to make sure the links are safe or that we have to detonate them inside of a safe layer outside of your organization in terms of the safety precautions. But of course, all things in regards to data, privacy, and information, it's still safe inside of your tenant as part of the Microsoft 365 guarantee around security that I'm sure hopefully you're all familiar with. So it's really about checking twice those issues to make sure that you're safe, your customers are safe, and your data is protected from things like phishing scams. It's easy to fall for them no matter how well regulated you are and how well trained. So let us help you stay in the cutting edge. In addition to that, we're all about helping you to safeguard your company's important data. So we look at different types of ways that you can really help recommend to your audience, your users, how to stay protected. For example, with things like policy tips, you can imagine sending out an Outlook mail where you might be emailing someone as simple as just outside of your organization. We can let you know, hey, it looks like you're emailing someone outside of the org. Are you sure you want to do that? And that's usually relatively safe. Over to other opportunities like, hey, it looks like you might be sending out an Excel document that has some credit card information in here or personally unique identifiers such as a social security number in America. You can actually recommend all different types of settings that are created by you, the IT professional, if that's your role in the organization, doing things such as informing your end user, hey, you might not want to do this because of the personal unique identifiers, but you can still let them send the mail if you want. You can actually lock down the entire mail being sent, or you can also inform the user, hey, you can send this, but we're going to retain your information as just a simple audit precaution just in case. So you, the IT pro, are really in charge of how to handle each step along the way. We want to give you the power to keep your organization safe. And that's the last of the 4 really key scenarios we talked about a moment ago to walk through how do you unlock that Office 365 ProPlus capabilities. Unlocking creativity, really being built for teamwork, integration for simplicity, and here we have intelligent security. So with that, let's take a moment to switch over to our demo environment, and I'd love to walk you through some of the great capabilities that we can do. Now I want to walk you through some of the great features that are available with that offering for you and your organization. And we're going to walk through some of our favorite apps, of course, and capabilities out there. So in this scenario, I'm kind of playing the role of our fictional character, Megan Bowen. She works for Contoso. You might be familiar with that great organization if you stick along to a lot of these Microsoft demos to keep on learning what we have to offer. But with that in mind, today we're going to be talking about the Contoso quadcopter camera. And in this scenario, you can imagine a teammate of mine sent me a document and just asked me to review the doc and put in my own feedback. So let's walk through and see what that looks like in the latest version of Office. So as I scroll through the document here, I'm going to take a look. And it looks like right at the top here in my executive summary area, I'm starting to see a few different types of squiggles, blue underlines, and gold dots going on here, letting me know I've got some proofing that I need to do for sure. So as I dive into here, I want to call to our attention for a second this red squiggle. Now that's something most of us are pretty familiar with, of course. That's our good old spell check error. But what we've done is actually supercharged it, and we call it an experience now called Editor. It's all about these AI capabilities we've built in here to help you get better recommendations for how to update that content, and how to really spell check, grammar check, and even have style critiques to think about the different voice and how you approach writing. It's like your own little assistant powered by AI. So let's take a look and see what that looks like in practice here. So the first thing that catches my eye here is this red squiggle. And it looks like we've got a spell check error, the sentence reading, increasingly photography is chaining. And that doesn't seem right, so I'm going to right click and see what it offers us. You'll see here what's different than ever before is we've got, of course, a few different options for what that word might be. In this case, changing, chaining, or chancing. But what's newer is the synonyms going underneath. What that really helps you to do is if it's a particularly hard word or you're still not exactly sure how to spell it, the synonyms can help you to identify, hey, this is the right word that I'm looking for. It's especially helpful also if you're maybe not working in your native language or if you've got a different type of learning difference such as dyslexia. In addition to that, a really helpful benefit is you now have this great read aloud capability that comes with it.
Changing, similar to altering, exchanging, varying.
So I'm going to go ahead now and just select changing, and we're good to go. Up here, another blue double underline grabs my attention, and that's our new indicator for what a grammar check looks like. Innovation to their customers. Pretty clear example here. It's just saying, hey, it's a grammar error with a possible word choice. I'll go ahead and switch it. And then the next one that grabs my attention is down here. And this is what really excites me about the new capabilities with Editor. It's all about our style critiques. So in this wording, it just says, from policemen to everyday users, our products will lead the market. So this gold dotted underline, it's actually flagging for us that it's saying, hey, you might want to consider using some gender neutral language. It's part of that inclusive language bucket. And right here on top where my arrow is pointing, you can see the type of critique it's recommending to you. So in this case, it's saying instead of policemen, you should probably use police officers. And as I go to make that change, it's also really important to note, you can actually go ahead into your options menu under proofing, and you can select the different types of content you want to be recommended in their approach. Another good example, just to give you a flair for what's on the newer side here, it's saying at the same time a number of amazing technology enhancements. It's letting me know, hey, you might want to actually be a little more clear and concise. You can probably stretch those 3 words all the way down to just one with several. And it's super important sometimes to try to consider that concise language. You know, sometimes you're writing a little bit too long, it's a little bit confusing, you're losing your whole point in the piece here. Kind of like myself, a bit of a verbose speaker, one would say. The styling critique might tell me to hurry up and get on to the next feature. But it's so important to me, this great gold dotted underline. I wanted to take a moment to show you a few ways it works. And so that's some of our new editor capabilities, is walking through all at a glance, how do you have spell check, help out, grammar check, and that style critique to really help put you in charge of thinking through different ways to write your content out. So as we go through, and I kind of keep skimming the content here, the next thing that catches my eye is it looks like some of the paragraphs were written here in French. In this case, my Contoso team is working internationally. I've got some partners over in the French region, and it looks like they dropped in some content in their native language. Now, I don't know about all of you out there, but I certainly don't speak French. But we've got a great new capability built straight into the tool here that can actually help me out. So I'm just going to go up to review, and we've got this translate capability here where I can translate a selection of the document or even the entire document. So really cool. Up here on top, it's telling me through an auto detection, it recognizes that it's French. And then I can see right in line to get a sense of what is it saying in English, and I can decide, do I want to insert that content now that I've got it translated? It looks pretty good to me, and that'd be helpful to have in my native language, so I'm going to go ahead and just insert it. So right here, back in line in our document, we've now got an English translation to that content. I can confidently start working on it. But another really cool benefit I want to highlight for ourselves, right over here, that bold content that was originally inside of the French version stayed here in the English version. So even when you're doing those translations, there's really not that notion of your emphasis being lost in translation, which is a really great capability as we think about working internationally and in all different languages. Also, if you wanted to, you could actually select to just translate that entire document and create a totally separate doc so you can look at them side by side to think about in full English, full French, or any other type of language out there that we offer to you. As we look here for a moment just to identify, there's tons of languages here you could imagine going and grabbing whatever you and your company need to use. So that translation really helps us to work more efficiently, and it's all about staying inside of the app itself and not getting distracted and popping out. Another really cool capability as I'm going through and editing here, I'm going to go ahead and just grab my pen for myself right here, and I can start drawing in here. And you'll notice I just put my pen straight onto the document here on the screen, and it started writing right away. I didn't have to do anything there to make sure it actually was working. And that's a really cool capability to just get you up and running for annotations, editing, and really working on that natural feedback loop. But some really cool capabilities, if you switch the feature mode, is all around ink editor. So I know a lot of companies out there, they actually go ahead often and they'll still print out documents and they like to handwrite their feedback. But what's really cool with a thing like ink editor, with some natural gestures, I can just turn on that ink editor and I can go ahead here and just cross out an entire set of content. And just like that, it'll actually get rid of the content. It'll take my pen's input and turn it into a real action. In addition to those things like crossing out, I can also go ahead and I can just highlight a line here. So you see here with the highlight capabilities, we can go ahead and just draw that line out easily. And it takes, again, that natural flow of my pen and stylus and turns it into a real usable piece of content with a true highlight. And that's a pretty exciting capability we've got going on now, making it easier than ever to actually get your work done. And now as I scroll back up to the top, now that we've done some of our edits, I want to go ahead and take a moment to talk a little bit about accessibility and the capabilities that we're building in to help all different types of workers benefit from Office. So it's really important to note that there's a significant portion of the population that has all different types of disabilities or differences in the workplace, as well as the general population. Consistently, though, people don't feel like they can safely come to their manager, come to their IT department, and say that they need a different type of tech to work efficiently. People are concerned with how they might be judged. So when Microsoft thinks about those types of issues, we focus a ton on the ability for having inclusive design, make sure that we take into account what different individuals need to be successful in the workplace right there in the tech they're most likely already using. So what does that really mean in this walkthrough example? When we look at this document here on the screen, a lot of people probably feel pretty comfortable reading this document without too much of an issue. But folks with different things like dyslexia or dysgraphia might feel like they can't necessarily read the content in the way they want to comfortably. So we created an experience called the Learning Tools. And as I hit the Learning Tools right there inside of View, I want you to notice how the screen already shifted out, pushed some things out of the way to help me focus in. But it lets me do a lot of other great capabilities as well. Up here on top, I can go ahead and actually switch, so as like an inverse, for example, here, as well as create spacing, create different syllables with little dots in between. And I can even go so far as to create do a read aloud functionality. And all of what this is doing is focusing in on that ability for each syllable and each word to be highlighted at a time. And again, this is really helpful if you have a learning difference such as dyslexia, or maybe you're working in your non-native tongue and you need some help with this. So let's show you now that great capability of reading aloud.
Increasingly, photography is changing. People live their...
So it's really all about helping people to work with the content in their natural environment without having to worry about going off and creating all different add-ons or buying different types of technology. We want people to be successful where they're already working and benefit from them. And so that's a lot of what we're trying to do to help folks out in terms of accessibility. In addition, inside of Review, there's also this great Check Accessibility tab to make sure before you send out documents to the rest of your team, or other people you're working with, or different colleagues at presentations, that you're actually following all the best practices for that inclusive design. And that's available across the Microsoft platform in various Office apps. So that's a lot of what we have going on in Word. Now I want to switch over to show you a bit more of what's happening in the Excel world. So take a second to think to yourself, are you an Excel pro, maybe a bit of an Excel novice? Or how's your organization kind of work with data? Well, no matter how confident you usually feel with Excel and working with analytics in general, the larger that document gets in that spreadsheet, the harder it sometimes can be to actually kind of grok what's happening in that information, in that table, and think through, what are the questions I want to ask? What are maybe some interesting trends I wouldn't have realized on my own? So we really wanted to make that an easier process for everyone. And we're rolling out this experience called Insights in preview right now. And what it does is it'll actually run all of your data here and start to think through what are some high-level trends, high-level charts I can create, and help you to see your data a bit better. And this is all using machine learning in the background to help your organization out. So what's really cool as we look through here, you can start to notice there's all these different types of information being pulled out for us, creating different charts here and whatnot. But even better, we can actually interact with those charts here. We inserted that chart from the Insights preview pane about sum of units and country generation. But even cooler, as we go ahead here, I'm just going to close the Insights pane so I have a bit more space to work with. We can start actually interacting with it like a true pivot table. So I can go ahead and actually say to myself, if it's a sum of units by generation, maybe I'm curious also of what operating system is being utilized here. And I can just click that and start manipulating it in all different ways to figure out, hey, what OS is available, by what generation, what country, how are things really selling? And after just a few clicks, I can actually look at that entire data set we had a moment ago and have a bit of information around what do I want to do next. So this really helps you to save time and focus, especially if you're a bit of a pro and might have known what you're looking for anyway. Or if you're more on the novice side and weren't trying to get started, it can help you out. But regardless of your experience level, there's also a great capability around finding outliers. And just like you saw a moment ago, you go straight from insight to action here with this pivot table to keep on manipulating and asking questions in the way that you want to be successful. So that's our Insights preview, which is rolling out now. It's been a great capability. Still in the Excel world, I want to show you something that's really cool. Before I dive into this demo, it's important to remember for a moment that Excel is super powerful. You can do so many different things with it, but there's a couple of small things that can still really trip it up. So for example, as we look at the different information here on my screen, on the left-hand side, you see a bunch of companies, and on the right-hand side, you see a bunch of states. Now, Excel normally doesn't know what these words are referring to. It doesn't intuitively understand the letters coming together to create the notion of Microsoft as a company. But we've got a brand new capability where we can actually create these rich data types all around these words. So let me show you what that means. The first thing I want to do is convert my Microsoft, Starbucks, and Nike into a proper table. I'm going to go over into data. And here you'll see this new capability and category around data types. So I want to understand the stock information associated with these companies. So I'm going to just go ahead and convert it. And it'll actually pull down information right there from the web, bringing in a bit of information that we can actually leverage. So as I go ahead here, I'm just going to do an overview of the Microsoft Corporation. You'll see all the info in a summary view of what's happening with the stock right now, from open to low, high, volume, etc. Super cool. And right up here, I can actually go ahead and type in something like the ticker symbol, and it knows intuitively that I actually mean that to be a real reference. It's not just a word, it actually has meaning behind it. So it fills out that table. In addition, super cool, I can actually just go in here and grab in the highs, the lows, for example. Really easy. And I'm going to go back and just retype the name of our table here. Going to write company. And so now I've got a great, easy to use chart. But I'm going to go ahead also and grab the whole chart. And I want to go ahead and find out a recommended chart that I might think is helpful for us. For example, here, it looks like we can grab a chart for information around the high and the low of this information. And I'll zoom out a bit to make it easier for you to see. Really easy. We just went from a few steps, and just like that, we've got, again, all this information built right in, pulled from the web of the company, the ticker stat, and different things like the high and the low, for example. And you can make a whole chart out of it. In addition to stocks, we also have a cool new capability around the geography aspect. So I'm going to do that same experience. Let's just see what it looks like from that angle. So with tables here, we can go back to data, and now it's a bit of geography. And we can still go ahead and pull in some interesting information, such as, what's the capital of each state we're working with here? What was the date it was founded? All this different really interesting information of what's going on is all available to us in a simple to use way that's super helpful for you to use. And the whole idea of what we want to accomplish is this notion of, can I just pull in that information and really just focus in on my document, helping it to be easier than ever before to get up and running and really get started with your information here. And that's what some of the cool things are going on in the Excel world now. Again, all with ProPlus as the best way to stay up to date and get these features. So now moving from Excel, let's go into our PowerPoint world. So here we've got a slide deck that I bet you've probably seen a style and version of before. How many of us out there have really thought to ourselves, I don't have time to think about how to make this slide look great. I have to focus on the story I'm trying to tell. But then you go to the meeting and you kind of have a little bit of embarrassment with these simple white slides. They look boring. Unfairly, your audience isn't engaged. Well, we think it should be really easy for folks to actually design beautiful looking slides. And that's what we've done, is help you to create, with just a few clicks, some awesome looking content. So let me take a look with you all and show you what that means. So the first thing I want to do to my home screen here on this first slide is actually grab a few pictures. I'll drop them in from my file, some awesome looking visuals of that quadcopter. And as I drop in these pictures here, on the right-hand side, it pops out and it'll actually start recommending different ways I might want to lay them out, which is super cool and helpful for me. So I'm going to grab this one. I think it looks pretty good. And a nice thing to note too is it actually picks up on the color themes here. So the blues are popping and it'll actually focus in on the different pieces of the picture that is most important from that machine learning. So again, like you've got the center here of the drone, for example, is remote control. So you always have it in view. So the next slide, here we've got out a list of all different type of copy. We can actually go ahead and again, select a cooler looking view to help things look a bit more interesting and appealing. I'm going to grab this image. We've got a full looking slide. And it's not just about those bullets and lines. It can also help you out to create those pesky timeline slides that are so useful but difficult to make sometimes. I like the look of this one. Feels good. And then our last step here that's really cool. You can go ahead and actually create different smart art type of experiences as well as having this cool way where it can actually go ahead and pull out that keyword to have that verb kind of nice action-oriented style approach. So download, join, share, talk. And just like that in a few clicks, if we go back to top, we've actually got a great looking presentation and it'll actually help us to understand, hey, what was that design for impact experience like? Giving you some tips of how to use it if you weren't too sure. I got it. And now we go back and we look. And with just a few clicks, we're able to make a great looking presentation. And it's all really about helping us to focus on the stories we want to tell and craft our compelling presentation. So now let's switch over and say, well, what if we've already got a bit of a great looking presentation overall, but we want to add a little more impact in terms of like unique storytelling, really creating a more compelling line of vision between the content on the page and the visuals of when we get up there to present. So here we've got a 3D image. You grab it, you look around, you can do kind of anything you want with it, which is really cool. So I'm going to grab a copy of that guy here, drop it down into my next slide, and I'm actually going to go ahead and rearrange the angle and just resize it here. I really want to focus in on this nice blade up on top. So now let's take a second, we'll go real quick into our slideshow and see what that experience is like. So as we pop through here, we've got all that information that we need. Nice and easy, the different angles of the quadcopter. But if we want to really bring this to the next level and create some awesome, rich-looking transitions, we've got a great capability called Morph. I'm going to go ahead and just grab all the slides, go into our transitions, and hit the Morph functionality. So with just one click, we've totally changed the look and feel of our presentation, and I want to show you what that feels like now. Back into the slideshow mode. So now you see that quadcopter. It's actually kind of zipping and zooming all across the different slide spaces, and it's really just growing around and moving, which is a super cool way to create like a rich cinematic feel to make you seem like a professional up there when you're presenting your content, and really just help you be a cut above the rest when it comes to demonstrating how to be awesome with the quadcopter here or whatever you want to convey in your PowerPoint. And so that's all about Morph. And here we showed it with 3D, but you can actually do that with any shape, any picture you want to really have that nice effortless motion happening across the screen that looks really cool. And now the last app I want to walk you through is some cool experiences we have going on in Outlook. So I talked a little bit earlier at the start about how we can help folks with the focused inbox. And that's a great way to think through how do I prioritize the work I have right now? So in this case, I've got about 38 open emails that are still unread. In my world, that's actually a pretty good day to only have 38 emails read. But think about when you go maybe to back-to-back meetings, or even in the time it takes you to watch this video to learn more about ProPlus. It's easy to feel just in this deluge of too much information and feeling like, how do I actually know, what do I need to respond to? What's the work that needs my attention now? So the focus inbox is one way where we help you to prioritize what's inside of your initial thoughts. But the other really cool capability is all around these great @ mentions. So here we actually see a couple @ mentions right here in the inbox, or we can just sort by it. And with that mentioned mail, you now notice the mentioned mail is something that in my organization we always use to say, hey, I actually need you to do something specifically. It's kind of like a more helpful take on the to line and CC line. This @ mention specifically indicates if you have an action. So for example, here I had a teammate of mine, Patty, email and ask if we could take a look at the deck and whatnot. But in this case, I'm hanging out with all of you doing a great walkthrough of the capability. So I'm actually just going to respond here. I'm going to let them know, hey, I can't help, but I think Isaiah can help us here, for example. And what's really cool as we grab it, all I did was that social media style @ mention. And now I can go ahead, insert, grab them here, and they're right there on that to-do line up here. So we can really just easily follow along and make sure we've got the right folks involved. Oh, it looks like our buddy Isaiah might be on vacation, but I'll send it along anyway. Maybe we'll get lucky. He'll help out. But if we want to be extra good to him, I was going to say, or our buddy Catherine can help out here. So that's a way that you can really think through and focus on what are the assets and what are the mails I really need to respond to in this moment that are going to be helpful to help me focus in and not get stuck through that deluge of all the mails throughout the day. So focusing in on what matters. So now that we looked at about of the really cool capabilities with Outlook of how to focus on the right mails that matter to us and take action, I want to show you a cool integration we've got going on now, starting in Outlook on the web. So here, we're just looking at Outlook on the web right now, and we've got a great capability around helping to really understand the different people in your workplace or that you work with outside of other organizations. So in this example, I've actually got a meeting invite to go to a broad team dinner, but I don't know everyone necessarily here on the list. So I want to just, look them up on the gallery, see if I know we got anything in common, for example. So I noticed John here, and of course we've got our super helpful overview of the basics. We've got information here like number and whatnot, contact information, etc. But the cool thing now with the LinkedIn integration, we can actually go ahead and see here through LinkedIn, hey, what's some of his background? And if you notice on the top right, he's a second connection to me. We haven't actually connected through LinkedIn. So you can be confident it's just pulling from that publicly available information, so your privacy is always secured. Here, for example, I could see it looks like he worked in the UK. I could ask him a few questions about local specific knowledge I might need, which is really nice. Another great benefit, if I hop into the organizational chain, I can also see, hey, who are some people that my teammate John works with, figure out if we've got anything related to each other that might help each other out here to be successful. And a really nice capability as well, if we go into the files or the email world, we can actually grab in here a bunch of information, which is super helpful to see, hey, what did we most recently talk about? And it'll help me to prepare as I walk into that quick meeting, which is always a great step. So you're on top of your work and ready to go when you work together. And so that's a lot of what I have to offer today in terms of a high-level demo to show you some of the awesome capabilities and what's going on in the Office 365 ProPlus world. So thanks for taking a moment to walk through those demos with me. If you're starting to think a bit about, hey, I might want ProPlus for my organization, we've got tons of different companies out there already having made the switch and having a real success to benefiting their company in terms of reducing things like email costs, helping out in all different ways of how they can collaborate and really scale around the globe in some great ways. And here's just some high-level examples of those capabilities. And if you're thinking it's time that you want to actually go after it and get ready to deploy, Fast Track is an awesome resource of how you can do that. Here's a bit of an overview of what's going on and how we can help you out. with some great app compatibility assessments with our Office telemetry, for example. Really thinking about how you can get some ongoing expert assistance from all the different fast track engineers and really just benefit from the great ways that we can work together to help you help your business out. So some of the next steps you might want to think about is taking a look online to dive deeper into the Office 365 products and solution. Maybe schedule with your representative a hands-on experience for the customer immersion. And then finally, start to think through and initiate that Office 365 pilot through Fast Track we were just referencing and thinking a moment ago about. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much. My name is Scott Shapiro. I'm with the Office 365 ProPlus team. We are so glad you're taking a moment to learn more about Office 365 ProPlus. We think it could be great for your organization to really help your end users as well as the IT setting to be more efficient, save time, and just amplify your work in all new ways while always keeping your data secure, your apps up to date, and making it hopefully easier than ever before to really deploy that information, deploy those apps, and keep you ahead of the pack and helping your business out. So thank you. And if you want to follow along over on Twitter, my account is ShapScott, where I tweet about Microsoft and some other passions of mine all the time to try to help you out and answer any questions along the way. Have a great day.